Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a great video planned out for you guys today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the value of silver in ancient Rome, or even in ancient days. The reason I want to talk about that, I was reading an article where essentially someone found a bunch of treasure. And we hear it all the time. So-and-so digging up a pool finds a treasure. So-and-so digging up for worms finds a treasure. So-and-so working in the garden finds a treasure. And when you look at this specific article, it was a 13-pound treasure with 20,000 coins, silver coins. Think about that. 13 pounds is like 13 pounds. What are we talking? Is that they 1 gram coins? And no, they were even smaller. They were quarter-gram coins. And as I started looking into it, it kind of got me on a tangent where I ended up looking back in ancient Rome and wanted to find out like a denarius. I've went down this path before, and it's just mind-blowing. You know, you hear how Jesus got betrayed for 20 silver coins or 30 silver coins. And you know, you think about, man, I mean, what are these silver coins? I mean, you know, when you read up on this stuff, it's just mind-blowing how such a small amount of money that we perceive as a small amount of money today was worth so much back then that people would do pick grapes in a vineyard for a whole day for 1 denarius. For, let me reword that, 4.5 grams of silver. 12 loaves of bread for 4.5 grams of silver. And I know right off someone's going to say the denarius changed over time, and it did. Rome eventually debased its money to where there was no silver in it. But starting out, you know, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that we're going to use the analogy that these are the actual full 98% silver, 99% silver, whatever, denariuses. So that way we can give it the most fairest comparison. So if you enjoyed today's video, please take a quick minute, hit that thumbs up button for me, leave me a comment. We're going to go through some of the numbers today and just see what happened. And then we're going to jump right in this talk. I think it's going to be a really good one. If you're not subscribed, do the ultimate thing. Hit that subscribe button. Thumbs up, comment, and if you're one of the lucky people to be able to hype the video, I greatly appreciate it, but very few people have the hype option. So with that being said, let's jump in and get started. So right off the bat, taking a look at silver, we got silver right now at $52.69. The big dip that we've seen over the last month is almost a thing of the past. I know we had a little bit. I thought we were going to keep pushing maybe forward just a little bit more, but we didn't. We ended up not breaking that all-time high. We got as high as 54.32 roughly, something around that, just under what our previous all-time high was. But I want people to understand, when we were at that high, just literally a day ago, there was people still that just mind blown on the price of silver, what's going on, and they didn't understand. But what I want people to understand is we've only had silver higher than where we were yesterday. What, one day when you think about it? Back on, I don't know, roughly the 17th of October. Not too long ago, about a month ago. So I think that's really good that we're sitting where we're sitting. It's like now it's the pullback has all been forgotten. So I think silver's going to go a whole lot higher, and you know, it's going to be enjoyable to watch the ride as the price just continues to climb to astronomical numbers. And I'm not going to lie, some of what we're going to look at today, people are going to be mind blown how high silver could go and how high silver has been in the past, how much value it had. We got gold right now sitting at $4,176. Again, a slight pullback, not recouping all of its ground though where it was, which is a good thing because now we have silver at a 79-to-1 ratio. We were as high as 125 at one point. We did come down some. Then we popped back up to 85, and now we're back to 79. So pretty good to know there. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin really getting hit hard. Oh, even harder, getting hit hard now at 96,900, down another $2,089. I don't want to say an overnight trading, but I will say over the course of the last 24 hours. I'm not sure if this ticker right here is actually based off a 24-hour ticker, because ultimately how much something is down in the short run is not what I'm really looking for, especially when it comes to gold and silver. With this, I think it's inevitable. We're going to see people start getting nervous with everything going on, and I think people realize that's not good for Bitcoin being a thin air asset. There's not really any back use for it that people have to have it. So it's more of something that people want just because they think it's going to go higher. Now, this is not financial advice. I have to say that I usually try to remember to say it in the beginning of the video, but as long as I say it somewhere in the video, this is everything we share on this video is just my opinion. And I believe a lot of other people share that same opinion, and that's what makes people want to subscribe to the channel, because they have like-minded opinions on what we're talking about. So I just wanted to say that, not financial advice. It's just designed for you to do some research. Next thing I want to take a look at is assets based by market cap. I look at this every day because I think it's a very important chart to see, so you can really see what is happening in the bigger picture. It almost lets you step back. We got silver at 52.62 using this chart. They end up using the actual futures price, not the spot price, so it could be a little different than what we were looking at. Well, 52.63, 52.62, so we'll say it's pretty much on par right now. Silver sitting sixth at 2.961 trillion, and gaining a little bit more on Google, sitting at 3.363 trillion, especially seeing a lot of stocks taking big hits today, with silver only down 1%, but then you have stuff like Google down almost 3%, Microsoft down 1.5%, Apple doing decent by only going back down 0.1%, with Nvidia doing horrible, down 3.5%, over 3.5%. So we'll see how this is going to play out. It's going to be interesting. I really expect silver will continue climbing up the board. I think that Bitcoin could drop a little bit more, down 4.75% over the last day. So it has been taking a hit. Taking a look at the national debt at 38,191,000,000,000. Continuing to grow. The dollar looking good on the DXY, sitting there at 99.16. However, at the end of the day, it's just paper currency that's being betted or looked at compared to other paper currencies. So so the story of the day that I want to really talk about is all these different treasures that have been found too. They're always finding treasures, and that's what gives us a good glimpse back at history. You know, someone might be remodeling a house and they find a treasure, putting in a fence. Maybe this guy right here, a fisherman searching for worms, finds 20,000 medieval silver coins. Now, this is the one that caught my eye. Now, when I had originally seen this article, the first time it said, fisherman searching for worms finds treasure, estimated weight 13 pounds with a total of 20,000 coins. And I was like, what? And so it really got me wanting to kind of look a little bit more into this story. And as I did look into this story, you know, here's the details of it. It was found near a summer home in Stockholm, Sweden. Primary from the 12th century, dated in range from the Swedish king Knut Eriksson. If you're familiar with the TV series The Vikings, you'll recognize that name right off. Or if you're into the legendary warriors, you might know Eric Bloodaxe or some of the other Viking people that are on the list and either have been made or are on the list to be made. So you might have recognized that name. But 20,000 coins. I was like, what in the world? 20,000? I mean, that's a lot of coins when you think about it. Coming in, though, I wanted to know 13 pounds. How many troy ounces of silver is that? Now, that gave me 208 troy ounces. So, in order to do that, I think they did, 14, I believe it was? 14 ounces times 13? Let's see here. Let me just pull up the calculator. And I probably shouldn't have pulled that up because I had that already open with some. I was just finishing off calculating. And yeah, that 688 that you just saw, that's where it's estimating silver could go based on if we were to see a repeat of a real value. 208 divided by 13. Ooh, so it's actually going to be even less than that. Let's see, how many, I should know this by heart, but it's so late at night now. How many troy ounces are in a troy pound? 12. Okay, so we're going to come back here, and we're just going to recalculate something real quick. 12 clear. 13 pounds divided by 12 equals, did I do that wrong? Hold on here. I did do that wrong. 13 pounds. Man, how am I messing up? Times 12. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's clear this out for a minute before we get back into the talk. This is driving me nuts. Times 12. Boom, 156. So 156 ounces of silver was found in that treasure that we were just talking about. So not really a lot when you think about it of silver. There are a lot of stackers in the room right now that have a treasure compared to this at 156 ounces. So now what I want you to kind of look at is how many grams that breaks down to. When you have a troy ounce, that comes out to 31.1 grams per every ounce. So we're actually going to take that 156. We're going to multiply that by 31.1 equals 4,851.6. Now, here's the thing. That's grams for the amount of silver that was there, because I'm trying to figure out, man, what are these coins? So if we're talking grams there, and that treasure was 20,000 coins, we're talking quarter-gram coins. Think about that for a minute. In order for that to not be a typo, that means those coins have to be approximately a quarter of a gram of silver. So think about that for just a minute. What kind of value? I mean, were these things like the penny? I mean, I don't believe they were, but I mean, I don't think they had anything as mass produced as the penny back then. But with that being said, I mean, it's crazy to think of that, how that kind of played out. Now, I wanted to know, from there, I wanted to know, like the regular Roman coins. A Roman coin was a denarius back in the day. That was the most popular one that you hear of. And a Roman denarius originally contained 4.5 grams of silver. Though the amount varied significantly over time due to currency debasement, every currency in history has always debased their money. Whether that was Rome, Cyprus, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Libya, and here's the thing, even America has been debasing their currency lately as they print more and more for more and more different things. Now, I'm not going to complain. I mean, one of the things they're discussing right now is our $2,000 inflation stimulus checks, I guess you could call it, to kind of help American people with inflation. And a lot of people will be up to take those $2,000 checks. But I think it's only going to lead to more and more inflation as things continue on down the line. Moving on, I wanted to know, now that we know what a denarius is, a denarius being 4.5 grams of silver, 4.5 grams. I wanted to know, what would a denarius buy you back in the day? And as I started looking at this, a loaf of bread was 1/12 of a denarius. So you could get basically 12 loaves of bread for 1 denarius. That's 4.5 grams of silver. Let me think here. Let's just look at something. What is the spot price on 1 gram of silver right now? $1.70. Think about that for a quick minute. $1.70. 1.7 times 4.5 equals $7.65 at today's price. Could you get 12 loaves of bread for $7.65? I don't think that's possible. Maybe someone knows where they can. I don't know. Maybe they got those old bread stores. I remember in the old days when I was a kid, we always used to go to the old leftover stuff that didn't sell, that was like dated for that day, or it was going to go, or it might have even expired already. But back in the day, they would still sell it. I used to love buying all the little cakes and cookies. Not something I can do today, obviously, with the diabetes issue, but I'm working on it. Some olive oil. I don't know how much that is right there, how that weight plays out. If that's like a bottle. I mean, a bottle of olive oil is, if we're talking real olive oil, and that's another thing. Back then, they didn't water it down, send it from Spain to Greece to Italy to Mexico to all these different places so they can put something else in it and water it down. Something I actually just learned. I was taught recently, hey, when you buy olive oil, buy it from one country. And I was like, what do you mean one country? He goes, make sure when you look at the back of the bottle, it only has one country. And when I first started doing it, I was like, what in the world? This olive oil has been shipped all over the world. 20 different countries, it seemed like. Yeah, I'm exaggerating. It was usually like 6 countries on the back of the olive oil, which was pretty crazy. I thought that an item of just basic olive oil would have touched 6 different countries. It, to me, was nuts. A solid pair of boots was 22 denariuses. I guess I could factor out that and figure we'll come back to that one. This was the one that really got me. A day's wage for a soldier. 1 denarius. So for a day's pay, $8. Excuse me. Tired already. It seems like I'm getting tired and tired earlier and earlier. But think about that. Can you imagine working a whole day for $7.65? That wouldn't fly. But I wanted to know what the average American pay was for a day. And, it gave me 156 to 180. I find that kind of a little ridiculous in a way, maybe because the average, they're taking everybody. But I personally thought that was a little high because a lot of people that I know a lot of workers at different friends' companies, and, they're making like $15, which I guess you're talking an 8-hour day. And who knows if back in the day they did 8 hours. I'm sure they didn't have no labor laws back in the day. You're picking grapes from sun up till sundown, essentially, to get the day's pay. But think about that for a quick minute. Even if we used this $156 clear, $156. Let's divide that by a denarius. So we're going to divide by 4.5. You're talking $34 a gram. Think about that for a minute. $34.60 for 1 gram of silver. Now, let's multiply that by 31.1 because that's how many grams are in an ounce of silver. So times 31.1. You're talking $1,000 silver at that rate. If we were to go back. Now, it's probably not ever going to go back to the exact prices that we saw back in Roman times, but I do think that we will see silver start running a whole lot higher. I found it really interesting, though. A single denarius could buy a day's provisions for a family. So think about that. A day's provision for 4.5 grams of silver at its peak. A simple meal, or the cost of labor for a day's work. For example, it might purchase an amphory, I don't know how you pronounce that, of olive oil. A day's worth of basic foods for a family, or a solid pair of sandals for a soldier. So think about, man, it's just crazy back in the day what people would do for a denarius. 1 day's food and clothing for a family for 1 denarius. So a lot of things to think about in this. How silver was so valued back in the ancient days. Now, I know some people might make the argument, well, yeah, because they had to mine it. They had to mine it by hand, and they didn't have big machinery and Comstock loads and this and that. But it doesn't mean to me that silver will go to that price, $1,000 an ounce. But it does mean that it is severely, severely undervalued at the price that it is now. So let me pull up one more thing real quick. Since I had said it, and it's kind of in the back of my mind right now, driving me nuts. How many pieces of silver did Jesus get betrayed for? I can't remember if it was 30. I should know this, but 30. It was 30. Okay. Jesus was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. So think about that. 30 pieces of silver. Let's just see one more thing. What coin was Jesus betrayed for? I think it's going to say the denarius. 30 pieces of silver. Was Jesus betrayed for 30 denarius? No, Jesus was not betrayed for 30 denarius. The figure is 30 pieces of silver, and the betrayal was carried out by Judas. I want to know the coin. Specifically, what coins was Jesus betrayed for? I thought it was denarius. It just says pieces of silver. So I guess we don't know how big those pieces of silver were. I had seen something one day that it was denarius. I'm trying to find something now that estimates it. It's just crazy to think. I mean, even if we give it the most benefit of the doubt, 30 pieces of silver being an ounce of silver. I mean, can you imagine betraying out your best friend for $1,500 and putting him to the end, essentially? I can't use the D word. It's kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure out exactly the exact weight of the silver that Jesus got betrayed for. The exact figure depends on which coin was used. The pieces of silver were likely Tyranny Shackles, a common and highly pure coin. Okay, so let's do this. Can I copy? I can't even pronounce what that is. So let's see if we can do this here. How much? I gotta type it out because I can't pronounce that word. Kind of need to see even how they spelled it. Tyrian. TYRIAN. Okay, so this is average weight, 14 grams. This high and consistent purity, which was superior to many. Okay, so they're giving them the benefit of the doubt. 14 grams of silver. So 14 grams of silver, clear. Let's say 14 grams of silver times 30. 420 grams. So let's open another window here. What is the value of 420 grams of silver? $718. Think about that. Betraying out your best friend for $718. I'm not convinced that, well, we've seen it in other calculations with the pair of boots, with the 12 loaves of bread, with the day's wage. And when you look at this type of stuff, it just really paints the picture that silver was worth a whole lot more back then. Now, there's a lot of different reasons people will say, you know, silver's plentiful today because of technology, and therefore they can mine more of it, and therefore the price has plunged down, and that's why it will never go back up over 50, is what some people used to say. However, we are over 50 now. I think we're going to pretty much stay over 50. The only way we're going to see something devastating is if the stock market really takes a huge tank. But I don't know the future. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just telling you guys my opinion. It is definitely something for people to think about. Excuse me. I think a day is going to come where people are going to see the price of silver start climbing, and people are just going to be like in awe, and they're going to kind of be disappointed why they didn't pick up some silver when they had heard about it. Maybe they had a family member. I mean, you guys probably told a family member, pick up a little bit of silver, and they didn't. They laughed at it. Maybe they laughed at you behind your back and said, man, conspiracy nuts, they're everywhere. You know, but the truth of the matter is we see the direction that the price is going. We know the importance of silver, and we know that if we ever go back on a gold and silver standard, that's it. I actually met today with a friend of mine, and we were discussing coins and silver and all this different stuff. And one of the things that we had said is, according to the Bible, and I don't like to get too religious because I know some people are not religious, but according to the Bible has stuff in Revelation that says, in the end, a day's labor will be a day's food. So literally, they'll be putting it on. So you'll have to work a whole day for a day's worth of food. Now, in order for that to happen, we were talking, and I said, that means that it can't be paper. It's probably going to be, they're definitely not going to be using a paper system. They're probably going to be back on some sort of a gold and silver standard. Now, by no means am I necessarily saying we are in the end. We don't know when the end is going to come. And trust me, I have scoured the Bible looking for specific references, wondering if the diabetes will get me before the end of the world. My bet is the diabetes. But needless to say, people need to understand that silver has always had value, and silver will always have value. The question is, will you have some of it when the value is rediscovered? Because they have dumbed us down, I believe, so they can get all the silver in their possession for themselves. The rich elites have been buying up silver left and right, especially with these dips. I mean, you look at the price comes flush down, and then, you know, they buy up the physical, but they beat the price down using paper. And I think as time goes on, more and more people are going to want to get into silver. And it's going to get harder and harder to get, kind of like gold. Think about gold for a minute, how in the past we would end up essentially picking up 1 ounce gold coins. If you've been stacking for a while, you've picked up 1 ounce gold coins. Now, I mean, most of us, if we're lucky enough to get a gold coin, we're probably only getting 1/10 of an ounce, maybe a gram, maybe 1/20th of an ounce. But think about what that means for a quick minute. Now we're down to the smaller stuff. And I think silver is going to get that way, and I'll tell you why, too, because I wanted to trade someone recently a kilo of silver, and he's like, I wouldn't touch a kilo of silver for nothing. And I said, why? I said, someone out there will like it. It's still silver. And he goes, the reason I don't want to take it is because the weight makes it essentially harder to sell, and there's a lot of rules and regulations surrounding because they're so expensive. A kilo of silver now is like what, $1,700? When a lot of us picked those up, they were as low as $1,000. The opportunity was there, but a lot of people just missed out on it. And don't get me wrong, silver is silver. You can always put a torch to it, hold it with a pair of pliers, and let it melt into an ice bucket, and then strain it out and keep all the silver. It's going to be interesting to see. I think we're going to start seeing smaller and smaller silver coins as the price gets higher and higher. I actually picked up the other day a bunch of 1/10 ounce. They look like little silver eagles, 1/10 of an ounce. And I picked up a bunch of 1/10 of an ounce of, of half-ounce silver coins. Now, I got lucky. I don't normally like to buy the fractional stuff unless I'm going to get a really good deal. I got really lucky. The person gave me a super awesome deal, and I was like, you know, for that price, they're worth having because they are super cool looking. So with that being said, we are going to wrap the video up here. I hope I got that point across, that silver has always had value. And I think a day is going to come where we will go back to that value. And when we do, that's it. Big question, will you have your silver when that day comes? So we are going to end it here. Please be sure to check out some of these other great videos. If you did not subscribe yet, please take a quick minute, hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to put 3 good videos up on the board right now. So you can just click on one of these 3 around here, and if you like the looks of it, and listen to that video. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.